the galaxy buzzed with stories of the ancient humans. Most believed they were just myths, scary bedtime stories to frighten young ones. Taewon didn't care what others thought. As the lead xenoarchaeologist from the Cephian Federation, he followed evidence, not rumors. The wind howled across the barren landscape as Taewon carefully brushed dust from a metallic fragment embedded in stone. The 3 moons of planet Eridus cast long shadows over the excavation site. His team had been working here for weeks, uncovering strange artifacts that matched no known species. Director Taewon. Come quickly, shouted Jiho, his young assistant whose blue scales glistened in the fading light. Taewon hurried over, his 6-jointed legs carrying him swiftly across the rocky terrain. Jiho stood at the entrance of a cave they hadn't explored before. Look, Jiho whispered, pointing his scanner at the cave walls. The readings were off the charts. The cave wasn't natural, it was constructed. Perfectly smooth walls stretched deep into the mountain, covered in strange markings unlike any known language. Help me set up the lights, Taewon said, unpacking equipment from his bag. As light flooded the tunnel, both researchers gasped. The passage opened into a vast chamber filled with objects too perfectly formed to be natural. Metal tables. Chairs sized for beings much larger than themselves. And strangest of all, pictures on the walls showing tall, 2-legged creatures without scales or armor. This can't be, Jiho whispered. These look like. Don't say it, Taewon warned. Let's document everything first. They spent hours scanning every inch of the room. Taewon's excitement grew with each discovery. These artifacts didn't match any known species' technology or design patterns. The materials were unlike anything in the galactic database. When they returned to their base camp that evening, the other researchers gathered to hear their findings. Kyungmi, the senior researcher with shimmering antennae, laughed when Taewon finished his presentation. You can't seriously believe you found human artifacts, she said. Humans are myths, Taewon. Stories to scare children. I never said they were human, Taewon replied calmly. I said the artifacts don't match any known species. Next you'll tell us you found proof of dragons or spirit walkers, added Sangmin, the security officer whose red scales always showed when he was amused. Taewon didn't argue. He knew what he had found was important, regardless of what the others thought. That night, while the others slept, Taewon sorted through the data from their scans. The artifacts were millions of years old, yet made from materials that should have broken down long ago. How was that possible? His computer suddenly beeped, showing an alert he'd never seen before. A signal, weak but steady, was broadcasting from a nearby system. The Hansol Nebula. A region avoided for centuries due to dangerous radiation levels. Computer, analyze signal pattern, Taewon commanded. Pattern matches no known communication protocol, the computer replied. Signal contains regular interval suggesting artificial origin. Taewon's heart raced. A signal from a supposedly dead region of space? Could it be connected to the artifacts? The next morning, he approached Minna, their pilot and the only one he truly trusted. I need to investigate something, he said quietly. Can you arrange a small ship without filing an official flight plan? Minna's eyes narrowed. That's against protocol, Taewon. What's going on? He showed her the signal data. Something is broadcasting from the Hansol Nebula. Something that might be connected to our discoveries. The nebula is restricted, she reminded him. The radiation. I know the risks, Taewon interrupted. But what if this is the discovery of our lifetime? What if the legends have some truth? Minna stared at him for a long moment before nodding. I'll arrange it. But only for a quick scan. No landing or extended exposure. That night, Taewon couldn't sleep. The legend said humans were violent conquerors who nearly destroyed the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing. But if they were that advanced, how could they simply disappear? What if the history everyone knew was wrong? The signal continued, unchanging. Regular pulses across space, like a heartbeat waiting to be found. Taewon gazed at the starry sky through his tent, wondering what secrets waited in the nebula. Tomorrow, he would find out if humans were just legends or something much more real. 3 days later, Taewon stood on the bridge of the small research vessel Horizon Seeker as it approached the edge of the Hansol Nebula. The swirling clouds of purple and blue gas created stunning patterns against the darkness of space. Despite its beauty, warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Radiation levels increasing," announced Min-ah, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. "Still within tolerable limits, but we shouldn't stay long." Beside Taewon stood Jiho and Sangmin, who had insisted on joining after learning of the secret mission. Sangmin still didn't believe they would find anything but trouble. "I still think this is foolish," muttered Sangmin, checking his weapon for the third time. "If something is broadcasting from this dead zone, it's probably a trap." Taewon ignored him, focusing instead on the signal growing stronger on his scanner. "Adjust course to these coordinates," he told Min-ah, sending the data to her station. The ship pushed deeper into the nebula, visibility dropping as the gases thickened around them. Everyone fell silent as the ship's external lights barely penetrated the colorful mist. "Wait, what's that?" Jiho suddenly pointed at something through the main viewport. At first, it appeared to be just another dense cloud formation. But as they drew closer, solid shapes began to emerge from the mist. Metal structures, enormous in scale, floating silently in space. "Impossible," whispered Min-ah as she slowed the ship. "That's artificial." The structure gradually revealed itself, a massive space station stretching several kilometers in length. Its design was unlike any the crew had ever seen, elegant curves blended with practical engineering, all built at a scale that dwarfed their small vessel. "No known species builds like this," said Jiho, his scales shifting to a pale yellow of amazement. As the Horizon Seeker approached, lights began activating along the station's hull. Sections that had appeared dormant suddenly glowed with life, as if the station was waking from a long sleep. "It's reacting to our presence," Taewon said, excitement making his voice tremble. "It's still operational after all this time." A large opening appeared on the side of the station, illuminated by soft blue lights that formed a path inside. "That looks like an invitation," Jiho observed. "Or a mouth waiting to swallow us," countered Sangmin. After much debate, they decided to dock. The station's systems seemed to guide their approach, helping the ship connect to an airlock that adjusted to fit their unfamiliar vessel. Taewon led the way, his heart pounding as the airlock cycled and opened into the station. The air inside was stale but breathable. Lights activated as they moved forward, revealing corridors built for beings much larger than themselves. "The scale of everything, it matches the artifacts we found," Taewon said, scanning the walls and floors. "And look at these markings." The walls were covered with symbols that matched those from the cave. But here, they were illuminated, some changing and shifting as if still functioning. They followed the activating lights deeper into the station, eventually reaching a vast central chamber. Thousands of large, pod-like containers filled the room, arranged in neat rows extending farther than they could see. "What are these?" Jiho asked, approaching the nearest container. Its surface was frosted, but a control panel nearby lit up as he approached. Before anyone could stop him, Jiho touched the illuminated panel. The container hummed to life, the frost clearing from its surface to reveal a transparent top. Inside was a being unlike any they had ever seen, bipedal, with smooth skin instead of scales or plates, and soft-looking fur on top of its head. It appeared to be sleeping. "By the first egg," gasped Min-ah, backing away. That's a human," Taewon finished for her, moving closer to the container. "A real human." Suddenly, the station's systems surged with activity. Lights brightened, and a voice spoke in an unknown language, echoing through the chamber. Translation algorithms in their suits struggled to process the sounds before producing words they could understand. Revival protocol initiated. "Welcome, visitors. Stasis preservation status, optimal. Beginning awakening sequence for diplomatic contact team." Around them, dozens of containers began to activate. The frost cleared from their surfaces, revealing more of the sleeping humans inside. The container before them opened with a hiss of escaping air. The human's chest began to rise and fall more deeply. Then, its eyes opened, deep brown and filled with intelligence. The human looked directly at Tae-won and spoke, its voice rough from disuse. The translation came a moment later. How long have we been asleep? Tae-won stood frozen, unable to believe he was facing a creature of legend, a being whose species had supposedly been extinct for millennia. About 12,000 years, he finally answered. The human closed its eyes briefly, absorbing this information. When it looked at them again, its expression showed not aggression or anger, but profound sadness. Then we're all that's left, it said quietly. The last of humanity. Panic erupted among the research team when the human sat up. Sangmin drew his weapon instinctively, aiming it at the strange being. Jiho stumbled backward, knocking into another container. Only Tae-won stood his ground, fascinated rather than frightened. Please, the human said, raising empty hands in a gesture that somehow seemed universal. We mean no harm. The translation systems in their suits struggled to keep up, but the meaning was clear enough. The human, a female, Tae-won realized, looked around at the armed visitors with confusion rather than aggression. I am Dr. Sunmi, she said slowly. Chief Medical Officer of Arc Station Alpha. Tae-won stepped forward, ignoring Sangmin's warning hiss. I am Tae-won, xenoarchaeologist of the Cephian Federation. Sunmi's eyes widened. Cephian? We helped your species develop space travel capabilities. You were still confined to your home system when... She trailed off, looking around at the other pods that were beginning to activate. More humans were waking up. A tall male with dark skin emerged from a nearby container, followed by others of varying appearances. The diversity among them was striking, different colors, sizes, and features, unlike the subtle variations in Tae-won's species. Minna edged closer to Tae-won. This is impossible, she whispered. Humans are supposed to be violent monsters. The old stories say they nearly destroyed the galaxy. Your stories are wrong, said a new human voice. A male with gray in his hair approached, moving carefully as if testing his limbs after long disuse. I am Junho, captain of this station. We were guardians, not destroyers. The humans gathered together, supporting each other as they recovered from their long sleep. They numbered 20 so far, but Tae-won could see thousands more pods stretching into the distance. Sangmin still hadn't lowered his weapon. If you were so peaceful, why do all species share legends of human aggression? Sunmi and Junho exchanged glances. History is written by those who remain, Junho said finally. We went into hiding to protect the younger species, not to abandon them. The station's systems continued awakening more humans, each emerging with the same confusion and sadness upon learning how much time had passed. One of them, a younger male who introduced himself as Hyun Woo, approached the aliens with particular interest. You evolved, he said, studying Tae-won's features. Your species had more pronounced mandibles when we knew you, and your color patterns were simpler. Tae-won felt a strange connection to this human who spoke of his ancestors as if he had seen them yesterday. Our records contain no mention of human assistance, he admitted. Someone erased us from your history, Sunmi said softly. As the initial shock faded, both groups began cautious attempts at communication. The humans asked questions about the current state of the galaxy, absorbing information about the thousands of years they had missed. In turn, they shared glimpses of a past that contradicted everything the aliens believed. Tae-won was fascinated by human behavior. They touched each other frequently, clasping hands, embracing, patting shoulders. They expressed emotions openly through their remarkably flexible facial features. Most surprising was their adaptability. Within hours, they had adjusted to the news of their long absence, begun learning about current technology, and started forming plans for their future. We need to understand what happened after we entered stasis, Junho told Tae-won as they reviewed star charts together. Something went very wrong if we've been turned into monsters in your legends. The peaceful interaction was interrupted when Minna received an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. They've tracked our ship, she told Tae-won, her scales paling with worry. They're demanding we abandon the station immediately. They're declaring a quarantine zone around the entire nebula. Junho overheard. They fear us that much? The Council is sending warships, Minna continued. They're ordering the destruction of this station and all inhabitants. Silence fell across the chamber. The humans looked at each other, an unspoken communication passing between them. We should leave, Sangmin urged. This isn't our fight. Taewon looked at the humans, beings who had apparently helped his ancestors reach the stars, now facing extinction because of lies told about them. He thought about the artifacts he had discovered, the evidence that contradicted the myths. I'm staying, he announced. The truth needs witnesses. Jiho stepped forward. I'll stay too. Minai hesitated but finally nodded her agreement. Only Sangmin remained unconvinced. Junho approached the security officer. You're right to be cautious, he said. But before you decide, let me show you something. He led them deeper into the station, to a chamber filled with historical records. Evidence of human peacekeeping missions, their technological gifts to developing species, and finally, records of the threat that had forced them into hiding. We didn't disappear because we lost a war, Sunmi explained. We disappeared to ensure everyone else would survive. News of the human discovery spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Taewon's initial reports, sent before the council could block communications, reached academic circles and then public networks. Reactions ranged from terror to fascination as species everywhere confronted the possibility that the legendary humans were real. Inside the station, now fully awakened, the humans worked tirelessly to restore their ancient systems. Hyun-woo, who specialized in engineering, collaborated with Jiho to integrate their technologies. Your power systems are actually based on our old designs, Hyun-woo explained as they reconnected a control panel. But you're using only a fraction of its potential. Meanwhile, Sunmi showed Minna the station's medical bay, where technology far beyond current galactic standards stood ready to treat almost any injury or illness. We developed these to help all species, Sunmi said, activating a regenerative field. Not to harm them. Captain Junho and Taewon spent hours reviewing historical archives. The truth became increasingly clear: humans had indeed been peacekeepers, using their advanced technology to help younger species develop while protecting them from threats. There, Junho pointed to a section of footage showing a massive battle. That was our last stand against the Void Eaters. The recording showed creatures of shadow and energy consuming entire planets. The human fleets had formed a protective line around systems populated by younger species. We couldn't defeat them through force, Junho explained. So we created a plan to hide the younger species by removing ourselves from the equation. The Void Eaters hunted us specifically because of our technology. Taewon's antenna drooped in disbelief. So you sacrificed yourselves to save everyone else? We didn't plan to sleep this long, Junho said. The station was supposed to wake us after a few centuries, when the danger had passed. Their research was interrupted by an alert from Minna. Multiple warships approaching. The Council has sent their elite fleet. On the command deck, they watched as 50 warships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the station. A transmission came through on all channels. Attention, unknown vessel and human containment facility, came the cold voice of Supreme Counselor Daeho. You are ordered to surrender all humans for proper disposal. This threat to galactic safety must be eliminated. Captain Junho straightened his uniform before responding. This is Captain Junho of Earth Alliance Arc Station Alpha. We pose no threat to the galaxy. We request peaceful dialogue. The response was immediate. There will be no dialogue with your kind. Your species was deemed too dangerous for existence. Surrender now or be destroyed. Even Sangmin, who had remained suspicious of the humans, was shocked by the Council's aggression. They're not even giving them a chance to speak. The warships launched their first volley of weapons. Energy beams struck the station's outer hull and dissipated harmlessly. Defense systems operational, reported Hyun-woo from his console. They can't penetrate our shields with that level of weaponry. Junho turned to his crew. We will not fire back. Prepare a targeted electromagnetic pulse. Disable their weapons but harm no one. The humans' response was precise and effective. A wave of energy swept through the attacking fleet, shutting down weapons systems but leaving life support intact. The Council ships floated helplessly in space. "Open a channel to all ships," Junho ordered. His face appeared on screens across the fleet. "We could have destroyed you, but that is not our way. We seek peace, not war. Look at your histories, the real histories, not the lies you've been told." Using the station's powerful systems, the humans broadcast historical records to every ship and then to communication networks across the galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming: humans had been protectors, not destroyers. The records revealed something else. After the humans entered stasis, certain opportunistic species had deliberately altered historical data, painting humans as monsters while stealing their technology and claiming it as their own. The Exoni Consortium, Taewon realized, recognizing the species behind the deception. They rose to power immediately after the human disappearance. They've controlled the Council for millennia. The Exoni representatives in the fleet tried to jam the transmission, but human technology easily overcame their efforts. Across the galaxy, beings watched in astonishment as the truth unfolded. Supreme Counselor Daeho, himself an Exoni, demanded reinforcements. "This is human trickery. They are manipulating historical data." But doubt had been planted. Several captains in the fleet refused to continue the attack. Some even turned their ships to protect the station from those still loyal to the Council. Inside the station, Junho watched the division spreading through the fleet with a sad smile. "We never wanted conflict," he told Taewon. "But sometimes the truth itself is the most powerful weapon." The standoff continued as more ships arrived, not all of them hostile. Some came to witness the humans for themselves, while others brought scientists and historians eager to learn the truth. The humans had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the standoff at Arc Station Alpha, the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives from over 500 species filled the chamber, many seeing each other face to face for the first time since the human revelation. In the center of the hall stood Captain Junho, now serving as humanity's first ambassador. Beside him, Taewon watched nervously as the new council leadership prepared to announce their decision. The past months had been chaotic. The Exoni government had collapsed when their centuries of deception were exposed. Many worlds had demanded new elections for council representatives. Old alliances fractured while new ones formed around the question of humanity's place in the galaxy. "This council recognizes Ambassador Junho," announced Ji-suk, the newly elected head counselor from the Myriadian Republic. "You may present your final statement before our vote." Junho stepped forward, his simple gray uniform standing in contrast to the elaborate garments of the other representatives. "Thank you, Counselor," he began. "For thousands of years, humans were turned into monsters in your stories. We were painted as conquerors and destroyers. The truth is both simpler and more complex." He activated a holographic display showing ancient star charts. "Humans were explorers and peacekeepers. We helped developing species reach the stars safely. We shared technology, medicine, and knowledge. Not to control, but because we believed a diverse galaxy was a stronger galaxy." The display shifted to show the terrible shadow creatures from the archives. "When the Void Eaters came, we fought not for ourselves, but for all sentient life. Our final act was to remove ourselves, the primary target of the Void Eaters, from the equation. We entered stasis, expecting to wake within centuries. Instead, we slept for millennia while others rewrote our story." Junho looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. "We don't want to reclaim any empire. We want to rebuild the partnership we once had with all species. We have much to learn about what the galaxy has become in our absence, and perhaps some things to teach as well." The chamber remained silent as Junho returned to his place beside Taewon. "You spoke well," Taewon whispered. Counselor Ji-suk stood. "We will now vote on Resolution 7329, the recognition of human rights and sovereignty." The vote proceeded slowly as each representative registered their decision. Despite overwhelming evidence of human benevolence, fear ran deep. Many species still struggled to reconcile the new truth with generations of warnings about the dangerous humans. When the final vote appeared on the great screen, a narrow majority had approved the resolution. Humans would be recognized as a sovereign species with full rights in galactic society. The chamber erupted in a mix of celebration and protest. Junho simply closed his eyes briefly in relief. Outside the council chamber, Sunmi waited with Hyunwoo and several other humans. When they received news of the vote, their celebration was subdued. "It's just the beginning," Sunmi reminded them. "We have much work to do." Indeed, in the months that followed, humans worked tirelessly to rebuild trust. They shared medical technology that cured diseases that had plagued certain species for generations. They helped improve spacecraft efficiency and safety. Most importantly, they listened and learned about the new galaxy they had awakened to. Not everyone welcomed them. Several worlds refused to allow human visitors. Some extremist groups attempted attacks on human outposts. But slowly, the fear began to fade. 1 year after their awakening, humans held a ceremony at Arc Station Alpha, now transformed into a cultural center and museum. Representatives from friendly worlds attended, including Taewon, now serving as the Cephian ambassador to humanity. "I never imagined where that first discovery would lead," Taewon told Sunmi as they watched various species mingling peacefully in the main hall. "Sometimes the greatest discoveries are the ones that challenge our most basic beliefs," she replied. Captain Junho gave a short speech to conclude the ceremony. "A year ago, humans were just legends, monsters in your stories. Today, we stand together as partners. Tomorrow, we face the galaxy's challenges as friends." He unveiled a new monument in the station's central plaza, a simple stone pillar inscribed with the words "truth" revealed in hundreds of languages. As the ceremony ended, Taewon noticed a group of young Cephians eagerly listening to Hyunwoo explain human music. Nearby, an Ixoni child rare to see after their species' disgrace shyly approached a human child. After a moment's hesitation, they began playing together. "That's the real victory," Junho said, following Taewon's gaze. "Not council votes or technology sharing, but this different species seeing each other as people, not as legends or myths." More pods were being awakened each month as space was prepared for the returning humans. The humans from Arc Station Alpha would not be alone much longer. As the artificial night cycle began in the station, stars became visible through the great dome overhead. Taewon wondered which of those distant points of light might hold more surprises, more legends waiting to be proven true. In this new era, anything seemed possible.